Welcome back to Guff Stuff Podcast. I'm Guff.
I'm Javen.
This week we are talking about MMOs. I don't know if it's gonna be specific. We're kind of just free flow, but we're gonna talk about some of the specific ones, and then we're gonna talk about
What is an MMO? Is that a massive
multiplayer online.
multilingual
Yep, multilingual.
organism?
Yep, lots of trash talking, lots of angry people usually. Them are the forums you stay away from. So first thing you do, you just stay away from MMO forums. You just don't go to the forums because how do you know if they have forums anymore?
It's a cesspool.
It's just don't stay away from their community.
They don't have
chat.
forums anymore. They have a subreddit.
The subreddit and the Discord. Just stay out of those because they're just angry.
Just angry, loud voices.
But yeah, MMOs, they've been around since some of the first.
I think like EverQuest and Ultima.
Yeah, Ultima Online, EverQuest. Well, Meridian 59 technically was one of the first ones. There actually was one before that. That was a total text-based stuff. But
World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft is probably the biggest one of our time. At least in the States here.
I used to play a browser-based one way back in the day.
Yep.
Called Urban Dead.
Okay.
And it was a zombie apocalypse survival, but it was basically text-based.
Oh, yep.
And then there was an interactive map you could click on to go from building to building.
That's nice.
And your inventory and your bio were all just hand typed and stuff, and it was pretty wild.
That's a byproduct of the BBS days, the bulletin board systems before the internet was a giant mangled mess.
Yeah.
They had bulletin boards, and those were pretty popular then. I played a lot of those. Those were really great. But yeah. For now, we're gonna stick to the internet.
Yeah.
World Wide Web.
So what was the first MMO you really sunk your teeth into then?
But the first one I sunk my teeth into was Ultima Online, and I brought this up in a lot of podcasts because it's just one of those games that I just fell in love with. I still love the game. I still play on a private shard.
Yeah.
Because there's just not enough population on the public shards anymore to play, really.
Right.
And there is, but you can't get anywhere when you're so many years behind, and it's really hard to catch back up. And that one it's a top down. It's what's that view? It's called
isometric.
Isometric, yeah. And the graphics are pretty
bare bones, dated.
Very dated, yeah. I mean, they do have newer versions where it's a little cleaner, but it's still, you don't play that for the graphics. You play it for the skills. You play it for the challenge of making. You have points instead of levels, right? You get 700 points, and you have items that could add more. And you have 30 skills to choose from to make 700 points. And 100 points is the max for a skill unless you get the other bonuses, but I'm not going to get into the dark depths of those games.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a multiplayer game, and it was just something, at least back in the early 90s.
And that was fantasy-based, right?
Pure fantasy-based.
Was it high magic, low magic? What was the world like?
High magic.
High magic? Okay.
Yeah. You had liches and you had elves and dwarves and you didn't really have races like that. But you'd have orcs, you had undead, you had dragons, and
so kind of like the Heroes of Might and Magic.
The same guy who made the Heroes of Might and Magic, or not the Heroes, but Might and Magic, Lord British. I can't think of his actual name. Richard Garrett.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was
the guy.
He's kind of the godfather of all of that.
I think I've seen YouTube videos of him where he talks about the game and stuff.
Yeah, he's kind of the godfather of that whole genre, at least starting of it.
Mm-hmm.
And
because high magic wasn't a big thing until basically D&D rolled around.
Right. Yeah, and then
74.
And in video games, I think he kind of pushed some of the first really. I mean, there was MUDs and stuff that you could. Well, again, that's back pre.
We should actually just when we record, it's informal or whatever.
Right.
But we throw ideas out. We should do an episode on high magic versus low magic sometime and kind of explain.
Yeah, that would be fun.
That could be kind of cool. The different genres in that.
Right.
But yeah, as far as MMOs go, I think the first one I sunk my teeth into had to be RuneScape.
Yeah. Well, that was a
huge
RuneScape, EverQuest, and Ultima Online. Ultima Online came out first. I think I'd like to say it was EverQuest and then RuneScape because RuneScape was browser based.
Yeah.
You didn't have to download the software and client like the other two you had to.
Mm-hmm.
And good games though.
So RuneScape was really fun. I started right when RuneScape 2 came out.
Okay.
Because RuneScape 1, classic RuneScape, I don't
Right.
know if that's even like playable or anything anymore.
No, I do know that just for reference reasons. So if you jumped into this podcast and you're listening through, probably should state that I'm really only talking about American MMOs.
Right.
There are lots of Asian MMOs that I know very little about.
Guild Wars and all that.
I mean, I played some of those, but I played Lineage 2, but Lineage and Lineage 2 both. They're huge. They're like 30 million people at one point, some of those games. So, to be fair, yeah, RuneScape Classic. Okay.
Yeah, RuneScape Classic, yeah. Well, and then, because I know old school RuneScape is now RuneScape 2. So what they call old school
Right.
RuneScape is RuneScape 2.
Okay.
And RuneScape is now in its third iteration. It has been for a while.
Nice.
But I played mostly RuneScape 2. And I played, gosh, it would have been when like, I think the Recipe for Disaster quest line, whenever that came out, that's when I left. That's when I stopped playing,
Right.
basically. So I played up until then.
Right.
And
I had friends that played it. I never played it. Though.
And RuneScape was great. It was, you could meet up with your friends, you know, after school. Because I played it a lot in high school, or not high school, but middle school.
Yeah, and you could play it on any computer almost.
Yeah, you could run it on
no real restriction.
You could run it on a calculator if you wanted to.
Right.
On a
as long as you get a browser on it.
On a Casio calculator.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that was a traditional high fantasy, lots of teleportation magic. They kind of like, I might just be blowing smoke here, but I'm pretty sure they were one of the first ones to have like the idea of one of like the boss raids,
right?
Where like there was like a big boss that you had to go and fight, and you'd farm them for gear,
right?
Like that, they were one of the first to like, really, maybe not invent it, but to be in that.
Well, I'm trying to think
in that bandwagon.
Yeah, well, you got to imagine any of those three games, whether it's EverQuest, Rune, or Ultimate, they all went their own way.
Yeah,
they're not. None of them are really that similar. Because EverQuest was more of a first-person, high fantasy, but it did have boss fights. But there was lots of sitting in one spot with about 1,000 other people waiting for one monster, so you could hope you got to kill. So you could
RuneScape did that too, but then RuneScape did it
terrible.
And then RuneScape had an awesome PvP in the wilderness,
right?
Where like if you went so far north, you could be attacked by other players. And if you attacked another player, you got a skull above your head.
Oh, yep.
If you initiated the attack.
Yep.
And then when you died, you only kept one of your items rather than three.
Oh.
And so like you could farm people's items and sell them, and like there was a whole economy built in RuneScape until the Grand Exchange came out too.
Okay.
Which was basically like a centralized economy.
Right.
That ran in Varrock, that basically like you could put items on the Grand Exchange and there would be a market value for the item and then sell them.
Right.
Where it used to be you'd have to hop from world to world with your inventory
just to hope you can
and spam in chat and hope someone wanted to buy what you were selling.
That would have sucked.
That's how I learned how to.
That would have. I'm glad I never.
That's how I made my first million in RuneScape, was merchanting.
Just merchanting.
Yeah, the old school way.
Ultima had a merchant system in place where you could buy vendors and put them in your house, because Ultima had anywhere you could see open land, you could place a house for the most part.
Okay.
Actually, in the beginning, it had anywhere, so people were placing their houses inside the cities, which was crazy. But it got to be the point where they got rid of that part and push everybody to outside the city limits. And then you could get vendors, and you could hire a vendor to sit on your door porch for you, and you could store your gear up there and sell it.
Nice.
It was so cool because you could mark ruin spots and teleport to that guy. And of course, if it was a PvP zone, which everywhere was.
It was really funny too, because RuneScape had all these different worlds, and some were designated like market worlds, and like it wasn't like clearly denoted. You just had to know, or you just like ask. Like there was this whole subculture of merchanting in RuneScape,
right?
And that's what I really delved into. I like doing the questing and stuff, but I got kind of bored with it. And then the PvP I never really cared for. But the marketing and analytics and economics, for some, like, to me, that was like the most fun part of the game, which is funny. Right. Nowadays I play like Stellaris, and, games where like, I found when I play games like that, I lean on economy more than I lean on like military.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Strategy.
Which game I did some economy in Ultima. But I had a smith that was high, high level and he
Mhm.
masterwork stuff, and you could sell that stuff for a lot at the time. But I think my first real delve into economy was probably Star Wars Galaxies. I don't know if
Okay.
you've heard of that game.
I know you've talked about it
Oh,
before.
dude, if there was a game that would still have my attention, if they would have kept going, I'd still be playing it.
Yeah.
It was just, it was kind of that open world. I love open world games. I always
Yeah.
have, I guess. And since probably that game, that was probably my, well, I don't know. Ultimate was pretty close to open world too, because there was no restrictions of where you went.
Yeah.
It just your death if you went to the wrong place.
Yeah.
But Star Wars Galaxies had multiple planets, I think 7 or 9 on release. And then yeah, you missed Star Wars Galaxies too, yeah. Um and it had a whole bunch of planets, and then every planet you pop they had major hub cities, but then you would, as I took Architect as my first character,
Mhm.
you could only really go down initially, you could only really go down one major tree line. And you could pick up sub trees.
Mhm.
Because you had X number of points to get to, and then that was it. I like that kind of game. There was no real levels. And building a city, and then in that side of that city, because I was an architect, I could kind of control what buildings got put in what place. So your whole economy control was right there.
Nice.
And I ended up being the mayor of the city, not intentionally, just because there was voting.
Yeah.
And then during the voting season, everybody that's part of your little globe, your little city part, they vote for who they want to be mayor.
Yeah.
And then that's who's in control of the city.
Cool.
And I tell you what, I was deep into that. I was so far down that. I'm like, I don't ever want to come out of this again. I loved building the little
It's funny because
cities and
I played a lot of MMOs, but I played them like single player games when I played them.
yep.
So like it was just I had a weird experience with MMOs. So I don't think I've ever had a traditional like play with a clan
Yeah, no.
and do an MMO
Right.
experience. I never really had that
Right.
until
Uh-oh.
now I want to talk about Foxhole.
Oh, till Foxhole. All
The
right.
Foxhole was the first MMO I ever played where I like joined a clan and I was willing to be either the lowest guy on the totem pole fighting in a trench to try throw bodies at a relic base with
Right.
mammon hand grenades, trying to blow it up,
Nice.
to basically like in the clan I was in, I was all the way to the point where I was doing like intelligence ops and partisan operations
Right.
and like I was in charge of like I never really did get to like officer rank or anything like that where I was like planning operations, but I was always like, oh, hey, I want someone to be like one of the higher ups, like, I want to do an op here.
Right.
And then I'd go in with a couple other guys that I played with all the time, and
Just do the op.
we'd clear like I remember one time there was a huge minefield, and we cleared out a path in the minefield, and I went into Microsoft Paint and I actually painted the line and sent the screenshots to the clan leader, and they used that and they disseminated that information for when because we were doing a joint operation with another clan.
Right.
They disseminated that information and just like that whole experience was
Yeah.
where I had my first like true MMO experience.
Right.
And that was fairly recently.
Yeah,
I've just never played
hasn't been out
MMOs.
that long.
But Foxhole was
some of the other
great
ones.
because it's an MMO where it's a World War I/World War II MMO kind of where there's two armies trying to take this massive map.
Yep.
And every bullet that is fired at the enemy
Yep.
and every shirt that you use when you respawn to every piece of coal that powers a
Right.
fire in the frozen wastelands to every jug of gasoline to every tank is fabricated by a player somewhere.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Someone literally dug the resources up, made that item, and then someone shipped it to the front lines and then put it in a base and then someone grabbed it out of the base and it entered the enemy. Like the logistics train and the sheer scale
Right.
of that whole effort is mind-boggling to some people. And it's mind-boggling to me, and I've participated in it.
Right. Yeah. When we first started talking about it, it kind of reminded me of World War II Online, which is more of a first-person shooter style MMO,
Mhm.
but it's the same concept. You have factories. You don't have people working at them, mind you.
Mhm.
Well, obviously, digitally, there's probably people working,
Right.
little peasants in the background, but you didn't, as players, have to do it. But players had to do everything else. We had to take huge map. It was the Axis versus the Allies, and you basically just. But World War II Online was 100% based on real war
Yeah.
during that time. And was a great game. And that's when you start talking Foxhole. I'm like, man, they just took Foxhole. They just put World War II online, put it into isometric, and made it like bigger.
There's also a game called Running with Rifles that was supposed to be
yeah,
like that, but I never played
yeah.
that one.
I had a guy that was talking about that. One of the guys on our Discord was talking about that.
Okay.
Lister, and it's supposed to be a good game.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. But Foxhole was awesome because like I was pretty good at math.
Yep.
And like just guessing things and stuff. And so like I used to do like mortar and artillery spotting and stuff.
Right.
And then you had to like look at flags and gauge the wind speed by how hard the flag was flapping, what direction it was going.
Right.
And then you had to like set your azimuth. And then you had to figure out where the guy was standing in relation to you that was actually shooting the gun. Because if you're not oriented right, the directions will be off and the range will be off. And it was just a really cool experience. There's so many facets.
Me thinking about it. Maybe what we should do is, because we're talking about MMOs now and we're talking about clans, maybe we should really actively start inviting people to Discord. I mean, just start other than people we know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like even like people here now on Twitch, we get more players that want to get into and I'd say we're a fairly mature group of people. We don't have a lot of 15-year-old boys screaming obscenities at us. But because right now we are kind of in this phase where we've been playing multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday or Mondays and Thursdays.
Yeah.
And right now we're on MMO Planet Side.
Yeah, Planet Side too. An MMO, which is part of the reason we wanted.
Right. Yeah, which is part of the reason why we're talking about MMO is Planet Side too. But it might be nice now just to start inviting more people and making it more public. And
I think the best way to do that I've seen for clans is you find a game that basically our core group wants to play.
Yep.
And then if we stick to that game for a while and learn that game for a while, then we start inviting people.
That's kind of where we're shooting at with this Monday and Thursday group, is we're playing games that we want to try. And I think that, Planet Side 2 is just kind of a filler. It's not really a long-term endeavor, I don't think. At least I don't think I'm going to get enough people to play it long-term to make me happy. I mean, I'll get a few people, but I think building up a clan, like, okay, for example, and this is kind of MMO related for sure, is I've had a heck of a time over the years. I've had some dudes that I was groups with back in Ultima and all the way to Star Wars, even starting World of Warcraft, that I played with, that we were so tight, like, boom.
Yeah.
Nothing would separate us in battle at all, ever, no matter what we were doing. But, we all get older, we get married, we move off. All of a sudden, some of us have jobs, we can't play video games all the time. But I think now I'm getting to that point where it'd be nice to. Well, I did join a group, and that's kind of where I was shooting with this anyway. I joined a clan called the Old Timers, because frankly, every time I get into a clan, half the clans are run by Xbox, the chat, what's that called when you're in your Xbox chat, when you're in the room waiting to start games, the
chat lobby?
Yeah, the Xbox lobbies. Okay. And if you've ever been to an Xbox or PlayStation lobby, I'm sure it's just as bad. It's full of just self-centered, arrogant little pricks that you just got tired of listening to.
See, I never played console like that.
Yeah, well, I did a little bit. I just immediately got turned off by it. And then you start getting into even some of the MMOs, and you're like, hey, these guilds are actively out there trying to get you to join. And you join them, and it's run by a 14-year-old that has like a god complex. And you're like, wow, I am like 40 years old. I do not need a 14-year-old yelling at me. But I found this guild in World War II online called the Old Timers Guild. And literally, you couldn't get into the guild until you filled out just the whole thing. And then someone would call your house to talk to you.
Really?
Not a joke. My wife was suspicious as hell. She's like, why would you have to give your phone number up? I said, hey, they only want mature people in this guild. You have to be 27 to join the guild and prove it somehow.
That's a bit extreme.
I proved it by telling them who I was and showing them my picture in classmates.com.
Yeah.
And then I had a lady call me from England in the middle of the night. Well, middle of my night, middle of her day.
Yeah.
But I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
And she's like, blah, 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 blah. My name's so-so from the Old Timers Guild. You've been talking. I'm like...
That's an extreme.
I'm like, that is hardcore. But you know what? The minute I got out of that guild, not one person distrusted me.
Mm.
I had to go through the hoops to get in. It was so worth it. And it's kind of what we've been doing with the guys we've been playing with now. we kind of going through all these games and we're kind of finding out who's what and what's what. It's kind of nice. I'm kind of enjoying it. I think we need more
found the way
people
that
now.
the clan that I joined for Foxhole, I really liked the way they did recruitment. And it was basically like their whole idea behind recruitment
Yep.
is you just have to send them an in-game picture of your name and that you're on the warden side
Okay.
and that you're on the right shard.
Okay.
So basically, you just have to prove that like you're
actually
dedicated for that war to that
right
side.
Well, that makes sense.
And you have to re-verify if you're below a certain rank every
Right.
war. And then, but man, we recruit people left and right. There's so many new people coming in all the time.
Well, that's not.
And if you fight through one whole war as the lowest rank, you become a legionnaire,
a member of the
a
group.
Legionnaire,
like a member of the core group. Well, maybe not core group,
and then
they
do purges every year too.
Right.
So like you have to maintain your rank, you have to be an active player or at least check in on the Discord or take a leave of absence if you're not going to play, stuff like that. So they have a really good way. And then to be an officer, you have to basically distinguish yourself.
Yeah. That's the Old Timers Guild was not 100% that way. Basically, once you're in, you're in. Yeah. Once you've proven yourself through their essays.
Well, that's how it was for me once I got my veteran badge.
Yeah.
Once I got my veteran badge, I haven't played Foxhole in probably. I took a break for over a year.
Right.
And I came back, and everyone's like, "Hey, welcome back, dude!
Yeah.
Glad to have you." I fought for a whole war, and then I haven't played again for a while.
That's the beauty of an MMO, though.
That's
what it is.
Clans,
that's the beauty of the clans. Yeah. Like with the Old Timers Guild, I could play any MMO I wanted. And as long as I can find an Old Timers guy, I could ask for an invite, prove who I was by their forums or their whatever, Discord now, I suppose. And they just, you're in.
It's great.
Your bank's open. Their banks are open to you. You can loot their guild vault.
And the nice thing about the Discord too is like in Foxhole, intelligence and information is really important.
Yep.
So like we have codes for the logistics bunkers and for all the other stuff. And depending upon what rank you are, you're only allowed certain access codes to certain areas.
That's pretty cool.
And so like I remember it was like War 83 or 84. I finally qualified for intelligence.
Right.
And they gave me the intelligence role in the Discord, and all of a sudden, like 8 new whole areas popped open, and there were charts and maps, but they don't want people giving that to enemy players.
Yeah, no, because then all of a sudden it's bad.
Really, and like it was just really cool. Oh. And then the other thing too that's nice is if you're a veteran clan member of the clan and you vouch for somebody, they immediately get to bypass all the BS, and get to join. And at the end of that war, they get full membership.
Right. That's pretty cool.
So like they don't have to go through anything. They just, you could vouch for them, and then they'll basically instantly be assigned roles and given the basic intel channels, and then it's great that way.
It's silly. It's silly how good the games are getting.
It's cool how but like I said, that was my first experience with an MMO.
First good experience, because I think you said. Oh, maybe not.
I played several MMOs, but again, I played them like as a single player.
Right? Yeah. No, you need if you want to play an MMO. Honestly, of course, there's World of Warcraft you can play by yourself, which never used to. You used to always had to have people with you, and I shouldn't say always, but it helped to have a friend with you
for the bigger raids.
Yeah, even just for adventuring. Like it was when we first started playing. Me and my wife were playing. And she just basically made a priest follow the tank around. And I just smashed stuff, and she just healed me and loot. And so all I had to do was kill stuff, start fights. But you almost had to because the mobs would get too uncontrollable, and so then you build up a group of friends that you always had somebody to party with. I don't mean party like in boozing, but like that too. But party with in game, and but now the games are trying to make it so. And I understand why. It's a money thing, right? And a lot of people just have issues playing with. Well, there's reasons why people have issues with fighting groups sometimes. But then when you do, then they want to make a single player easy, or the casual player, they call it. Casual players are nothing. They're not casual at all. Honestly, think about it. And this is something I've always had. Okay, so I'm going off on a rant here. Pause the whole MMO thing. Casual players, there are no casual players. I'm close to being casual, but when I play, I play. That's all there is to it. I have been in I don't know how many guilds, how many groups, how many war clans, how many over probably 50 MMOs over my life.
Mm.
And every time I hear the word casual player, that person probably plays 5 times longer and more than I do.
I think it's a
Right?
mindset though.
Oh, absolutely. Casual player, I think when a person says they're a casual player, they like to play alone and by themselves. That's what I think of as a casual player.
So I don't
Because a
know if I
casual
agree with
player,
that.
the casual player is not, to me, a casual player is somebody who plays when they get time, a few hours here, maybe an hour here, an hour there.
Yeah,
Right?
that's the
That would be
definition
a
of
casual
casual.
player.
Yeah.
But all the guys who have, or gals who have run across that say they're casual players, play more than me. And I'm usually a 4 to 5 hour a night guy if I'm
Yeah.
playing a game. I just go in. I don't,
Mhm.
I know you do too. It's like, the sun's coming up. I need to go to sleep. I got work in about an hour. I mean, we've been through that. All of us who play that. At times I'm casual because at times I only have an hour. But
Yeah.
most of the time I'm not
But I think casual is also too like how you approach the game. Like a great example of this would be take a recent example like any RTS, so StarCraft or Age of Empires.
right.
A casual player to me is someone who plays like bot matches
Right.
and
Right.
like mutation
Yep,
modes or
but
stuff like
that's
that.
usually not with other players. Casual
No,
people generally
no,
don't.
there's a lot of people I play with in multiplayer games that are casual players, multiplayer games that are casual players.
I'm looking at MMO though, not just like
Oh, I suppose yeah.
I am MMOs. I'm not specific.
I
No,
take
no.
that and I apply that to the whole.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, casual play. I'm a casual player when it comes to almost every other game.
Mhm.
But if I'm playing an MMO, I would not. I don't know. I guess I just if you want to have the full experience of a game, I think it's really important to one find a group like you did in Foxhole.
Mhm.
That's huge. That changed. You would probably hated Foxhole after a period of time because you couldn't find a nice cohesive group. And it kind of comes along with what we've been starting on our Discord and going along with the core group of players that we're trying to get to play other games with. We're trying to give us all a little bit to get to know each other, get to know our play styles, and find a game where we all can get together and play. And MMOs can do that for you. You just have to agree on the MMO, which is always the chore, unfortunately.
But that's the trouble with anything.
Yeah.
It's
But if we
there's
get
such a volume of
if we
things
can
out
get
there.
say we have 20 or 30, we can get 60 to 90 players. All of a sudden now we could have 2 or 3 groups. Well, we usually do have a couple groups playing, but we can do more. And getting into a big MMO would be fun if we have the right players. And I'm not talking World of Warcraft MMO. I don't I don't want to go on endless raids over and over and over. Like that's fun to a lot of people. To me, it's just not fun anymore. I don't mind going. World of Warcraft to me is just a single player MMO now.
Well, and World of Warcraft has this issue that a lot of MMO. This is one of the nice things about Foxhole and PlanetSide is that when a sneeze.
Yep. Boom.
One of the nice things about Foxhole and PlanetSide is that you don't need to do 200 hours of leveling to do the end game content where you want a clan.
No.
Foxhole, everyone's the same.
Yeah, I know. It's exactly right. That's kind of what got us on this whole MMO thing. It's like you were talking Foxhole. You could be the guy in the background just making shirts. Like that's literally your job. You just make
and
shirts.
if that's what you want to do, if you don't want to, you don't want to be stressed and have to worry about. You want to be a casual player.
Yep.
Logic.
Well, I know. A Lister, a guy who plays with us. He said one time he was like just not having it with other people. And so he decided that he still wanted to have a little bit of interaction, but not with other humans. He just wanted to you have to deal with other humans in Foxhole. You don't have a choice. But you don't have to be like in the field with them fighting. Mm-hmm. He's like, yeah, I was just tired. I was tired of work. I was tired of my kids at work, the people he works under that work under him. He calls them his kids. And he's like, I just needed to get away. And he said, I just played a delivery man. I got into a truck and I just go to one point and go to another point and just try to avoid the bad guys in between.
Yeah.
He said, I was playing an MMO with all these people. I didn't have nothing to do with any of them except for the guy I picked up with and then where I dropped stuff off.
One of the most effective things you can do in Foxhole as a single player or a clanless player is do hot logi.
Yeah.
Which is basically you look on the map and people will be like, there's a blizzard here, we need winter parkas.
Right.
Okay, you go through and you can see on the map what's in the public logi.
Right.
And there'll be the crates of shirts. And you're like, okay, I'm gonna grab crates of winter gear and shirts and ammo.
Yeah.
Then you deliver them.
Yep.
And sometimes it's really hairy.
Yeah.
Like I've had to do
Yeah,
deliveries
yeah.
where,
He
like,
said the excitement was still there, but he didn't have to deal with other people. He didn't have a guy sitting in the driver's passenger seat yelling at him, and
I
and he's just
I
like,
remember
I just
one time
drove.
I
Like,
I, I looted a colonial submachine gun, and you can put it in your secondary slot.
okay,
It's the only like submachine gun you can put in your secondary slot.
nice.
And so I looted one on the front lines, and then I because I was playing medic,
Yep.
and then I bailed out because they needed Logi. Well, all of a sudden now I'm running hot Logi for the clan, and there was partisans behind, and they had single shot or bolt action rifles.
Right.
And so they pop my vehicle and blew out a tire. So then I hop out and I have a submachine gun. And normally there's a pistol maybe for
Right.
Logi drivers.
Oh,
Nope, I
jeez.
had a submachine gun and grenades. So I was just like, da, 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 da. Like, oh my god.
What the hell? This guy's armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, MMOs are great. There's a lot of variety in them.
Yeah, and
You
I
can
think,
find them for just about any genre.
yeah, I would say, and I'll use Planet Side because that's what I'm playing now, but don't be afraid to like explore more of the thing than what's initially seen. One
Yeah.
of the big downfalls, I think, with PlanetSide right now is everybody thinks it's just this. Well, not everybody, because there's plenty of groups that don't. They treat it like what the developers have made it for,
Yeah.
but they treat it as just a FPS first-person shooter,
Which
kind of like
that's not what
just a refresher.
yeah.
Run out, die, run out, die. And you know what? That's fun. I do that plenty of time.
Yeah.
But I think that if you look at the game in a whole, there's whole base building aspects of that game, like literally huge base.
Mhm.
And I tell you what, over playing this last few, I don't know, probably a couple weeks now, we've been playing again for the like 12th time I played this game, but I actually have a group of people I play with. I realize how important those bases are. Like, and I play one. It just like we're getting hammered. We're outnumbered 5-1, but because our team, one of the guilds or outfits they're called on the team on our faction, started building man-made bases in like strategic places.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, say one of the Terran Republic is coming down, or well, I was playing Terran Republic, but the new conglomerate comes down, takes over our city, which leads to our tech plant. So they move on to the tech plant. They just move right past our city. Well, we already have spawn points inside that our built city.
Yeah.
So we just spawn there and go back and take over the base.
Yeah.
And it's been so nice to see some of that stuff added.
And to me, that's way more like I didn't realize there was that. I thought it was just
yeah, no, that's right.
I knew it had some elements,
Yep.
but I didn't know how deep it went. Because like my favorite thing about Foxhole was if I was frontlining, I liked doing medic and artillery.
Right.
And then if I wasn't frontlining, I liked doing logistics and engineering.
Yep.
And so if you're telling me PlanetSide has like
they have all kinds of base building.
engineering,
Oh yeah.
like because there's no Logi, I know that. Like the Logi is basically non-existent for that game.
Right. No, there is. Well, to some extent, right. The thing about PlanetSide is you have that. You have kind of a mini quest system in there, which is it definitely could be nicer. But when you start off, it says go get an ant. An ant collects corium, cordium, I think it's called, which is their special power rock, right? You go out, you mine it, you go follow their mini quest, and you build up a cordium silo, and then after that, you build up some other spawning points, and then you can build some walls. Pretty soon, all that stems off you. Now, it's a whole system. You can literally play your whole game by just going down that tree and building up all the stuff to that.
Yeah.
It is really cool.
And like you're telling me I could fight a whole war without ever having to be on the front line.
Well, I mean, people will come and shoot at you, but you don't have to be out in the middle of the combat.
See, and that's what
I know. That's I have. See, I'm gonna try and push them to do that.
Because when I dropped it was just 11 of us running in and dying, and I was playing combat medic, and I didn't feel that effective.
No.
And so I was just like, I kind of got disheartened really quickly.
Oh, absolutely.
Because like, I don't like that kind of game. Granted, it's an FPS shooter. I get it.
Yeah,
but
no.
That's not why I play.
Right.
I don't play Foxhole because it's a shooter.
Right. No, and that's you're right. You're 100% right. And when we were playing that night, that was only the first night we played TR. And I think we were just doing that to kind of get an idea if we want to even play that faction on that server. And now, at least I know there was we did really good the first time we played on the other server, but there's not a huge population of people. And so we felt like we were making a bigger difference than technically what we were. I mean, we were because there was 8 of us playing. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, the population of the server almost doubled. Mm-hmm. I mean, it got crazy, and we were just doing really well. Now in the Reds, in the server we're at now, which I'd say is easily the bigger of the 2 servers or 3 servers that are up, We don't seem like our small outfit 11 people is making that much difference. But I think if we went back and we focused a little bit on the base building, the strategic building of bases and certain points on the maps, we could technically, you could turn the tide of war with those bases. I watched it over the last 2 weeks. I've been paying a lot of attention to where they're putting bases. And teams are making huge difference, whether it's the purple, the blue, or the red. They're all making a huge difference. Yeah. And it's crazy. It's like, so I think, I mean, if you want to just base build tonight, let's just do that.
Well, man, I can play in 40K tonight. So
Oh yeah, that's right. But any other night, even if you want to just get on you and I, or even a couple of us one night, just to try it. Yeah, I want to get into the base building aspect. I do.
I'll have to check it out.
There's a huge whole thing there.
Anyways, so, yeah, I can't think of much else to cover for MMOs. So this is the MMO episode.
That's it. You're just cutting us off.
I'm cutting hard cut.
Man, that's rough, dude. All right.
Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.